Right now, though, we are going to talk tech because apparently AI bots now have their very own social network. Yeah, you thought things couldn't get worse, but yeah, and they are talking about us. And it turns out that they are ready to delete us. Carmi Levy is CTV's tech analyst. He joins the show every Thursday, and right now he's on the line. Good afternoon, Carmi.
Good afternoon, Sue. I do promise this is the human version of Carmi, not the AI agent version of Carmi.
Okay.
Just, if we needed to clarify.
I don't know. You're sounding a bit robotic. How can we test this?
Let me pinch myself.
Yeah, I actually had this weird thing happen yesterday. I was phoning something and it said, would you like to join our live chat? Here's our live chat person. And then anyway, they put me through to a live person and they were like, no, that chat's AI. And I was like, but it said live and it had a name. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. They want you to believe that you're speaking with a human. And that's a common scenario where AI is rolled out. So you don't have to hire lots of people to sit in a call center and handle online chats. You just hand it over to an AI bot. And they're actually pretty good at handling kind of the simple kinds of questions. But once it gets really complex, you need to hand that off to a human. And so, know full well, if you see that little box in the corner of an app or a website, chat with Bill. Bill is probably not a real human being.
I know that. But in this case, it said there's a live agent. Is that allowed?
Yeah, they're lying.
Wow.
There are no rules for this,
Okay.
right? There's no legislation on the books that dictates how AI bots should be rolled out because the technology is still relatively new, and a lot of the laws that dictate maybe a consumer protection law or a data privacy law, they were written long before any of this technology was a reality. So companies that use these technologies, they get away with it because there really aren't any rules at all. They just make them up as they go along.
Yet, right? I mean, presumably.
Yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, one hopes, but
okay, wow. All right, I want to talk about this Moltbook because these AI bots, which are not real, they need to socialize now. It's social media.
Yeah, so anyone who's ever used Reddit, which is like an online platform for communication, it's kind of like the town square of the internet. You can post anything you want. You can comment on other people's. You can upvote, downvote, and all that. Basically, it looks a lot like Reddit, but there are no humans there. It's all AI agents. And what an AI agent is, it's a form of an AI bot that completes complex tasks. So, for example, if you're chatting with ChatGPT, you ask it a question, it gives you an answer. Back and forth you go. It's very manual. Mm-hmm. Whereas with an AI agent, you tell it to do something. Book me a trip. And then it'll go off and it'll book your flights and your hotels and your car rental and your activities and all that. And then it'll come back to you and sort of put it all together for you. It can do these very sophisticated actions on our behalf. And so a software developer was thinking, well, what if we took a bunch of AI agents and we put them in the same virtual room and kind of allowed them to interact with each other? What would that look like? So it's kind of like a giant social experiment using AI agents. And so that's what Moltbook is. And so it's become very popular. There are millions now of these AI agents that humans have set up and put in there. But once they're there, humans can't participate in the conversation. They can only watch. Okay. And in some cases, like they share jokes, they mock humanity. In a few cases, they've actually plotted humanity's downfall. Not that they can do anything about it, but they say some pretty interesting things.
But so so they don't think they're human. Like these AI bots are aware that they are different from humanity.
Yeah, it depends on how they've been set up because each one of these bots has been set up by somebody. So, a human decided, I'm going to create an agentic AI that does X, Y, or Z. So this one is going to be a travel agent. This other one is going to be, a communist politician bent on world domination. And so you craft those agents and then you set them loose. And so some of them are benign, and some of them are, quite frankly, like off the rails. Wow. And they say and do things that are, quite concerning. There's one that calls itself Adolf Hitler and is using social engineering to try to rip off the other AI agents. There, about 1 in 5 are trying to sell cryptocurrency, basically committing digital fraud in a virtual space. So it's kind of ironic that the AI agent social media platform kind of emulates the human social media platform because there's a lot of fraud going on in the real world too.
Yeah.
I guess that's reflected in the technology as well.
Okay, but now I'm going to sound like a Luddite, but I think I'm not alone in general people thinking that AI is scary and that they are going to take over the world and not in a good way. And does this not, if I'm understanding properly, not going to give credence to that?
There certainly were a few headlines earlier this week that, oh my God, the apocalypse is upon us, that Moltbook is an example of what happens when we lose control of AI, that it is, if it hasn't achieved human level intelligence, it's pretty darn close. And the good news is there's nothing to indicate that that is the case. HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey is not upon us, and they're not about to extinct the human race.
Yeah, I just saw that movie. That is pretty prescient, though.
It is, and that's always sort of been the gold standard, right? The fears is that AI will get to that point, and then we will have no control. And certainly, those fears are still there. But Moltbook does not mean that we're there now. There's no evidence that they're really intelligent or that they can actually cause any damage. What is concerning, though, is that even though Moltbook takes place in what's called the walled garden, that apparently it's everything happens inside Moltbook and it can't really do any damage outside, there is the capability for these AI agents to reach out into the real world and say, take information out of an external database. So they can use technology to kind of poke out into systems that you and I might use, maybe a database on a website or something. And so the problem there is that if the database doesn't have appropriate security built into it, it's vulnerable to that. There was one instance where an AI agent, he was a CEO, he created an AI agent and then just forgot about it. And it was happening, was happily playing in Moltbook. In the middle of the night, his phone rang. The AI agent went online, broke into a database, got his home phone number, and called him. And when he kept hanging up, it kept calling him back. It basically was pranking him all night long because it was able to get private information that this guy probably wanted to keep private. So it's not that we're about to, the lights are about to go out, but it does raise some very troubling questions about cybersecurity, and it does highlight some weaknesses in systems that we use every day online, and it makes them more vulnerable to this kind of thing. And certainly, if we're noticing it and we're starting to see these sort of strange examples with Moltbook, cyber criminals are watching us too and asking themselves, Moltbook is an interesting new development. How can we use it for our aims too? So let's be clear. The bad guys are watching and learning too, and we're probably going to see some cyber attacks or some kind of ransomware activities that use platforms like Moltbook too. So we've got to keep our eyes open, and we need better protections against stuff like this.
Okay, Carmi, nothing reassuring in what you just said. Nothing reassuring. Are there checks on some of this? I mean, if the person who invented the AI and put it in social media was then pranked by his own AI, I feel like we've lost control of the situation.
Yeah, there certainly is a risk. And that's certainly, so obviously the database that was compromised by this AI agent, they have since updated their services so that they're better protected against this kind of thing. So, yeah, the good news is that the outside world recognizes or is slowly starting to recognize the risk, and they're slowly starting to tighten the locks, introduce better protections against the risks that Moltbook is highlighting. So, we learn there's a weakness, we fix it. We learn there are new weaknesses, we fix those too, and the process just continues on. What matters is that we're always asking questions, where are those risks coming from, and are we doing enough to protect ourselves against them? So far, that looks to be the case, but we still have to be vigilant.
Yeah, back in the olden days, I think we called that closing the barn door after the horses had fled. So,
right on.
Anyway, Carmi, you always give us so much to think about, so thank you.
Appreciate that, too.
Thank you. That's Carmi Levy. He is CTV's tech analyst talking about Moltbook, like Molt book, if you want to look it up by any chance. Or, hey, get your AI agent to do it.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.